everyone, and welcome to today's topic, which is conceptualizing health and well-being. The objectives of today's topic are to elucidate the concept of health, to elaborate various dimensions of health, to understand the notion of well-being, to discuss various facets of well-being, and to explore the relationship between health and well-being. Let us start with the concept of health. The roots of the concept of health can be traced back to the year 1080. The word health has origin from the Old English word health, which meant the state of being sound or whole and was generally used to infer a soundness of the body. The attribute of health was of great importance to the ancient Greeks, and their earlier ideas of health as supernatural phenomenon was replaced by their identification of life, habits and environmental factors in determining health status of the person. In ancient Greek, health was perceived in general form. Hippocrates in 400 BC affirmed that human well-being was influenced by the totality of environmental factors, that are living habits, climate, the quality of air, water and food. Health was thought to result from harmony among the factors of body, environment and lifestyle. Until the Cartesian distinction between mind and body, the holistic concept of health persisted. During the 17th century, the mind and body were seen to work independently of each other, with the body seen as intricate machine, diseases as the breakdown of the machine and the doctor's task as the repair of machine. Dorfman, as cited by Simmons in 1989, affirmed that health and disease were the extreme ends of a single continuum, wherein with the absence of one defines the presence of the other. This notion of health as disease-free state was widely accepted during the first half of the 20th century, mainly between physicians and medical professionals. The World Health Organization in late 1940s attempted to redefine health in its holistic view, similar to the tenets of early philosophers. The organization construed that health is, I quote, a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. A similar definition of health was put forward by the Ottawa Charter for Health Promotion in 1986, has defined health as, I quote, a resource for everyday life, not the objective of living. Health is a positive concept emphasizing social and personal resources as well as physical capacities. These definitions signal important consideration about health. Thus, health refers to the proper functioning of body and the mind, as well as the capacity to participate in social activities, performing the roles and abiding by the moral principles of the society. Now, coming to the theoretical perspective. Health is elusive to define, and ways of thinking about it have evolved over the years. The three approaches or models which define health include the medical model, the holistic model and the wellness model. Belloc in 1978, as cited by Boroshovich and Mednick in 2002, suggested that there are three major ways to understand the concept of health: the traditional medical concept, the World Health Organization concept and the ecological concept. Now coming to the traditional health concept. The earliest notion of health as a disease-free state represents the traditional medical concept. This view of health was largely accepted during the first half of the 20th century, mainly between physicians and medical personnel. Such a traditional medical concept of health was based on the assumption that health and disease were objective and observable phenomena. Developments in the areas of anatomy, bacteriology and physiology contributed to this view. Rather than representing the presence of certain attributes, health was therefore defined solely in terms of lack of disease, symptoms, signs or problems. Major pitfalls of this view of health were both that it conceptualized health, emphasizing illness, and that it neglected the individual as a whole by overemphasizing specific diseases and parts of the body. Additionally, this traditional view of health assumed there is a dichotomy between health and illness, which according to Hinkle in 1961 may not be necessarily the case. To be healthy, Individuals do not necessarily need to be in an absolute disease-free state, but they probably will have less disease than unhealthy people. Thus, the absence of disease, symptoms or problems may not be strong enough delimiters of healthy state. Now, the World Health Organization concept of health. In the late 1940s, the World Health Organization developed a more holistic concept of health as, I quote, a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not merely as the absence of disease or infirmity. Rather than restricting health to an absence of illness, health was conceptualized more in terms of the presence of absolute and positive qualities. This holistic and more utopian view of health encompasses and extends the traditional medical view by conceiving health as a positive state of well-being in which physical health is only one of the aspects involved. Along with that, social, psychological, physical, economic and political aspects were incorporated in the definition of health and regarded as components of paramount importance for health and well-being. By adding the psychological and social criteria, the authors of World Health Organization concept of health not only acknowledged that health and illness are essentially multi-causal but also shifted the focus from a strictly medical perspective in which absence of illness was the criteria used to evaluate a person's status. The new view of health, however, also presents some drawbacks since the qualities of well-being and wellness have not been clearly defined yet. By being so broad and vague, the World Health Organization concept, according to Lewis in 1953, lacks specificity enough to be defined operationally and to be applied to practical situations. Moreover, the WHO definition implies an idea of a complete perfect state which is unrealistic and unreachable. Now, the ecological concept of health. More ecological and relative notions of health emerged in 1960s and 1970s. Such perspectives differ from the previous medical and holistic approaches mainly in two aspects. First, by conceiving health as a more relative sort of concept, and second, by placing a greater emphasis on the interrelationship between the environment and the individual's quality of life. These ecological and relative definitions of health tended to be heavily based on an evaluation of the person's level of functioning and adaptation to the environment. Within the more function-oriented perspective, health has been defined either in terms of an adequate functional capacity which allows the individuals to carry out their duties and responsibilities, or in terms of certain quality of life which enables individuals to live happily, successfully, fruitfully and creatively. Parsons in 1958 differentiated between physical and mental health functioning. Mental health level was defined in terms of individuals' ability to carry out institutionalized social roles, while the evaluation of somatic health was based on the individual's effectiveness in accomplishing valued tasks. Alternatively, in ecological approaches more geared towards associating health with adaptation, health has been conceptualized as individuals' capacity to adjust adequately to their environment. The state of health and disease are expressions of the success and failure experienced by the organism in its effort to respond adaptively to environmental changes. In a similar vein, Dunn in 1959 extended the conception of health by introducing the notion of wellness as the integration of both people's capacity to function in their environment and their ability to adjust to environmental stresses. The ecological views of health also present some difficulties. Individuals may adapt, but as mentioned by Lewis, there are no clear distinctions between what constitutes a healthy and an unhealthy adaptation. Individuals may in fact adapt to a sick, morbid or disease-provoking condition. By the same token, individuals may indeed be sick though able to carry out social responsibilities. Moreover, normality, proper functioning and adaptation are socially and culturally constructed concepts. Consequently, as value judgment constructs, it becomes easy to conclude that what is considered healthy in one social context might not be in another. Researchers have stated that a universally valid concept of health is unattainable mostly because health is a value-laden term whose meaning is highly tied to different objectives which govern its use. In line with that, researchers certainly agree that rather than representing a single entity, for example, absence of illness, health refers to a number of entities and therefore is a multi-dimensional concept. Now, let us discuss about dimensions of health. Number 1, physical dimension. Most of us have a number of physiological and structural characteristics we can call on to aid us in accomplishing the wide array of activities that characterize a typical day and, on occasion, a not so typical day. Among these physical characteristics are our body weight, visual ability, strength, coordination, level of endurance, level of susceptibility to disease, and powers of recuperation. In certain situations, the physical dimension of health may be the most important. This importance almost certainly is why traditional medicine for centuries has equated health with the design and operation of the body. Number 2, emotional dimension. We can also possess certain emotional characteristics that can help us through the demands of daily living. The emotional dimension of health encompasses our ability to see the world in a realistic manner, cope with stress, remain flexible, and compromise to resolve conflict. To some extent, we are all affected by feeling states such as anger, happiness, fear, empathy, guilt, love, and hate. People who consistently try to improve their emotional health appear to enjoy life to much a greater extent than do those who let feelings of vulnerability overwhelm them or block their creativity. Number 3, social dimension. A third dimension of health encompasses social skills and cultural sensitivity. Initially, family interactions, school experiences, and peer group interactions foster development in these areas, but future social interactions will demand additional skills development and refinement of already existing skills and insights. In adulthood, including young adulthood, the composition of the social world changes principally because of our exposure to a wider array of people and the expanded roles associated with the employment, parenting, and community involvement. The importance of the social dimension of health in terms of a sense of well-being cannot be understated. Most succinct is the declining number of confidants that the typical American possesses. Whether called friends, best friends, or trusted friends, these may be the most important persons in one's social environment. Today, 1 out of every 4 American adults has no one to play this important role. In the absence of someone to confide in, both on a regular basis and during times of conflict, stress is often more frequent, of greater intensity, longer in duration, and eventually damaging to all of the dimensions of health. Number 4, intellectual dimension. The abilities to process and act on information, clarify values and beliefs, and exercise decision-making capacity rank among the most important aspects of total health. The ability to analyze, synthesize, hypothesize, and then act on new information enhances the quality of life in a multiple ways. Number 5, spiritual dimension. The 5th dimension of health is the spiritual dimension. Although certainly it includes religious beliefs and practices, many young adults would expand it to encompass more diverse belief systems including relationship with other living beings, the nature of human behavior, and the need and willingness to serve others. All are important components of spiritual health. Number 6, occupational dimension. In today's world, employment and productive efforts play an increasingly important role in how we perceive ourselves and how we see the goodness of the world in which we live. In addition, the workplace serves as both a testing ground for and a source of life-enhancing skills. In our place of employment, we gain not only the financial resources to meet our demands for both necessities and luxuries, but also an array of useful skills such as conflict resolution, experiences in shared responsibility, and intellectual growth that can be used to facilitate a wide range of non-employment related interactions. In turn, The workplace is enhanced by the healthfulness of the individuals who contribute to its endeavors. Now, coming to well-being. Well-being is about feeling good and functioning well and comprises an individual's experience of their life and the comparison of life circumstances with the social norms and values. In the backdrop of definition of health, the term health and well-being are used interchangeably. Well-being is not just the absence of disease or illness, it is a tangible and amorphous concept and depends upon the person's perception. Not surprisingly, the definition of well-being varies. The conceptualization of state of well-being is closer to the concept of mental health, happiness, full of life, vital, energy, interest, self-actualization of one's full potential and prosperity as well as the health. Seligman in 2011 introduced PERMA model of flourishing, which has 5 core elements of psychological well-being: positive, emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning and accomplishment. Consistent with these definitions is the approach taken by Wellbeing Institute at the University of Cambridge, which defines well-being as positive and sustainable characteristics which enable individuals and organizations to thrive and flourish. Others nevertheless argue that well-being is a social and cultural construct, questioning the value of approaches that attempt to quantify and categorize it. However, a common theme that has emerged from the various definitions of well-being is that of feeling good and functioning well. This broad definition encompasses an individual's own experience of their life and a comparison of their life circumstances with social norms and values. Well-being may therefore be viewed as having 2 dimensions, objective and subjective well-being. Subjective well-being is more of a proxy measure based on assumptions about basic human needs and rights, including aspects such as adequate food, physical health, education, and safety. Objective well-being can be measured through self-report, for example, asking people whether they have a specific health condition, or through more objective measures, for example, mortality rates and life expectancy, or personal well-being is measured by asking people directly how they think and feel about their own well-being and includes aspects such as life satisfaction, that is evaluation, positive emotion, that is hedonic, and whether their life is meaningful, that is eudaimonic. Now, facets of well-being. A description of the facets of well-being is described as emotional well-being. Emotional well-being is generally conceptualized as 2 general components. Number 1 is global satisfaction with life. It is based on the individual's subjective cognitive appraisals about life in general. Number 2 is predominance of positive over the negative effects or the affective balance, that is happiness. In a study, Diner and Lucas in 1999 have stated that, I quote, if a person reports that his or her life is satisfying, that he or she is experiencing frequent pleasant effect, and that he or she is not frequently experiencing the unpleasant effect, he or she is said to have high emotional well-being. This aspect of subjective well-being reflects the hedonic tradition of well-being. Some most renowned scholars have advocated this tradition in defining the good life. Despite of the closeness of this tradition to the mind of ordinary people and appealing nature of this, it should be remembered that it is necessary but not sufficient ingredient of mental health. Now, psychological well-being. Riff in 1989 critiqued research on the subjective well-being for its improvised theoretical basis. Based on the critique, Riff has developed an alternative approach of well-being, that is psychological well-being. She provided and operationalized 6 theory-guided dimensions of psychological well-being, including autonomy, personal growth, environmental mastery, purpose in life, positive relations with others, and the self-acceptance. These 6 dimensions are summarized as: number 1, autonomy. Autonomy is the regulation of one's own behavior through an internal locus of control. A fully functioning person has a high level of internal evaluation, assessing the self on the personal standards and achievements while not relying on the standards of others. They do not strive for endorsement from other individuals and are focused on their own beliefs and are less swayed by other people's ideas. A high level of autonomy suggests independence, with a low level suggesting concern over self-perception. Now, personal growth. Personal growth is the ability to develop and expand the self, to become a fully functioning person, to self-actualize and accomplish goals. To achieve peak psychological functioning, one must continue to develop the self through growth in various facets of life. This requires one to continually evolve and solve problems, thereby expanding one's talent and abilities. An elevated level of personal growth is associated with continued development, while a depleted level is suggestive of a lack of growth. Personal growth is potentially the psychological well-being dimension that is closest to eudaimonia. Now, environmental mastery. Environmental mastery refers to choosing and controlling the surrounding and imagined environment through the physical and or mental actions. While a high level of environmental mastery reflects control over one's context, a low level is related to inability to successfully control one's environment. Now, purpose in life. Purpose in life refers to the perceived significance of one's existence and involves the setting and reaching of goals which contribute to the appreciation of life. Mental health includes awareness that one has greater goal and purpose in life. Purposes in life creates direction, thereby eradicating despondency. Positive relations with others. Having positive relations with others is an essential component in the development of trusting and lasting relationships, as well as belonging to a network of communication and support. A calm and relaxed approach reflects maturity, leads to improved interactions and better consideration of others. While good relations result in an understanding of others, poor relations can cause frustration. The ability to have a good human relations is one key feature of mental health, with pathology often characterized by impairment in social functioning. Now, self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is the most recurring aspect of psychological well-being. It is a fundamental feature of mental health and an element of optimal functioning. Healthy levels of self-acceptance create a positive attitude and improved satisfaction with life. Moderate levels of confidence lead to greater achievement and acceptance, with positive feedback from others important in the maintenance of self-confidence and belief. Self-acceptance is a key component of self-actualization, enhanced psychological functioning, and development. It entails accepting the past and present as well as maintaining direction for the future. Dimensions of psychological well-being indicate the challenges that individuals encounter as they strive to function fully and realize their unique talents. The third and the final facet of well-being is social well-being. Despite of individuals' engagement in social structures and communities and face countless social tasks and challenges, researchers have only portrayed private phenomena of subjective well-being, that is emotional and psychological well-being. To fulfill the substantial gap of literature pertaining to mental health, Corey, L.M. Keyes in 1998 operationalized a multi-dimensional model of social well-being of the individual, consisting of 5 dimensions that indicate whether and to what degree individuals are functioning well in their social world. The included dimensions are: number 1, social integration. It refers to the extent to which people feel that they have something common with others who constitute their social reality as their neighborhood, as well as the degree to which they feel that they belong to their community and society. Social contribution. It includes the belief that one is a vital member of society with something of value to give to the world. Number 3, social coherence. Social coherence is the perception of the quality, organization, and operation of the social world, and it includes a concern for knowing about the world. Number 4, social actualization. Social actualization is the evaluation of potential and the trajectory of society. This is the belief in the evaluation of the society and the sense that society has potential that is being realized through its institutions and citizens. Number 5, social acceptance. Social acceptance is the construal of society through the character and qualities of the other people as a generalized category. Individuals who illustrate social acceptance trust others, think that others are capable of kindness, and believe that people can be industrious. Social accepting people hold favorable views of human nature and feel comfortable with others. Spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being is the construct that has been developed by researchers in the field of psychology and sociology over the past 30 years. Spiritual well-being may be understood as involving high levels of faith, commitment, and behavior relating to well-defined worldview or belief system. It provides a high sense of meaning and purpose to existence in general, and that offers an ethical path to personal fulfillment which includes connectedness with the self, other or high power or larger reality. It has also been seen as a sense of connectedness to something larger than oneself, bringing with it a sense of meaning, purpose, and personal value. Individual spiritual well-being is developed and grows along with his or her physical and intellectual well-being. Recently, researchers have drawn greater attention to the importance of spiritual well-being in human health. Jackson and Montauk in 2003 have defined spiritual well-being as, I quote, a sense of good health about oneself as a human being and as a unique individual. It happens when people are fulfilling their potential as individuals and human beings. They are aware of their own dignity and value. They enjoy themselves and have a sense of direction. They can sense this quality in others and consequently respect and relate positively to them, and they are at ease with the world around them. Similarly, Fisher in 1998 has defined spiritual health or well-being as, I quote, a fundamental dimension of people's overall health and well-being, permeating and integrating all other dimensions of health, that is, physical, mental, emotional, social, and physical. Further, Fisher in 1998 proposed a spiritual well-being model comprising the domains of personal, communal, environmental, transcendental well-being, and a single global spiritual well-being dimension. The personal domain deals with how one intra-relates with oneself with regard to meaning, purpose and values in life. The communal domain expresses in the quality and the depth of interpersonal relationships between self and others and includes love, justice, hope and faith in humanity. The environmental domain deals with care and nurture for the physical and biological world, including a sense of awe, wonder, and unity with the environment. The transcendental domain deals with the relationship of self with something or someone beyond the human level, such as cosmic force, transcendent reality, or God, and involves faith towards adoration and worship of the source of the mystery of the universe. Fisher also suggested that these four spiritual well-being domains cohere to determine a person's overall or global spiritual well-being. In sum, the emotional aspect of subjective well-being reflects the hedonic tradition of well-being, while the psychological and social aspects of subjective well-being reflect eudemonic tradition to the good life. Finally, the spiritual well-being is often seen as a sense of connectedness to something larger than oneself, bringing with it a sense of meaning, purpose, and personal value. Now, coming to the last portion of the topic, that is relationship between health and well-being. There is a two-way relationship between well-being and health. Health influences well-being and well-being itself influences health. A large number of empirical studies have assumed a positive relationship between these constructs, like Diner in 1984, Ryan and DC in 2001. There are a number of correlations between well-being and physical health outcomes: improved immune system response, higher pain tolerance, increased longevity, cardiovascular health, slower disease progression, and reproductive health. Similarly, positive emotions and mood states were found to be facilitating the immune functioning, leading in turn to improved health. Research on the relationship between psychological well-being and physical health has been more limited. These limited number of studies have provided evidence of a positive relationship of psychological well-being and physical health. Researchers have also reported positive relationship between mental health and well-being. Keyes and Waterman in 2003 have displayed substantial negative relation between psychological well-being, subjective well-being, and depression. This brings us to the end of the topic. Thanks for watching.